Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another Thursday Tips and Tricks. For today's series, or for today's session, we're going to be talking about our latest BlockBuster release. And if you don't know about our BlockBuster series, these are free blocks that you can access through our Facebook page. And they are blocks, sometimes they're original, sometimes they're historical blocks, but they're blocks that are designed to go along with our tools, with our technique sheets. They almost always have 3 different size variations in them. They usually have 3 different color variations, and they're designed to get us out of our rut and get us playing with our tools. And the one we're going to do today is called the 60-degree what? Because this is a block that we're going to make using 3 of our tools. I would use the tucker trimmer for the middle, the corner beam for the corner triangles, and for the center units, we're actually going to be using our star 60 tool, which is you normally think this is going to build a hexagon or this is going to build a triangle. Well, let's walk through the process so you can see what we've built with this particular block. All right. Here's you see the block is exploded. It's a 9-patch block. The center is a 4.5-inch square. That's easy. I would cut 4.5-inch strips, use my tucker trimmer, make all the centers that I need. The corner units are corner beam shapes, corner beam units. You will need to have the corner beam, the corner beam tool to be able to do that. But to know what size to create these corner beam shapes, what you're going to do is reference the BlockBuster handout, the BlockBuster sheet. Oftentimes what I'll do is I'll highlight those with my glow line tape so I know what I'm keeping track of what I'm looking at. And when I do that, for the size I'm making, an 11-inch finished block, it tells me I need to make 3.5-inch finished corner beams. And when I do that, so I'm making sure that I'm always getting the right number, I put a little piece of glow line tape on this project, and that way, when I cut my squares that I cut my center beams out of, when I cut my strips that I cut my side triangles out of, I just reference the right point on my tool. Remember, if you haven't done the corner beams for a while, go to our website and watch the video. It's going to refresh you on how you do all this. It's going to remind you that when you cut those side triangles, you have to have your strips facing so that you end up with 2 mirror image side triangles. It will help you learn how to cut that center shape using the guidelines that are on the tool. And there are a couple things that I found when I did this. I thought good hints that I should pass on to you guys. When I set these up to piece them, set them up the way you want them to look. Don't just have them willy-nilly on there, because sure as shooting you'll be grabbing the wrong piece to attach to that center, and you're going to get a wonky look, and you're going to have to take your seam ripper and sew it up and unsew it. The other thing I want you to do is when you position that side triangle on that centerpiece, leave a little bit hanging down there at the end. So you're kind of, the center beam is hanging at the top, the triangle is a little bit down at the end. Kind of center those 2 pieces so that after you're done with the construction, you're going to have about the same amount of fabric on all the edges. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. Everything is oversized, but the closer you don't want to run out of fabric up here or have too much fabric down there. So the the corner beams are easy peasy, just like you see in the instructions, just like you see in our videos. Now, for those north, south, east, and west star 60 sections, star 60 units, we're going to start with the same, making a star 60 unit, just like you will see in the set of instructions. When you refer to the BlockBuster, it's telling you what size star 60 units you need to make. Again, the glow line tape is just keeping me on track. It will tell me what size strips I need to cut for my diamonds, what size strips I need to cut for those side triangles. I will build my star 60 unit, stitch one on, stitch the second one on, get to this point where I trim those down exactly the same way that you're instructed to here in these instructions and on the video. But when I've gotten to here, I don't want to trim that back end. I want to go to steps 36 and 37. How do I know that? Well, that's what we're giving you in the BlockBuster. Use this set of instructions, go to certain steps for cutting those half triangles that you used to square off the edges of a triangle. It will tell you how to do that. It will tell you here how to cut, or what size to cut the rectangles. And again, make sure those rectangles are facing so that you get mirror images. But you'll build this unit, and it will indeed be oversized. And the trimming down is really the only tricky part of this whole operation. When you go to trim this down, what's going to happen is the top and the bottom of the unit are going to be trimmed with your star 60 tool. The sides of the unit are going to be trimmed with a regular ruler. And we did explain that in the handout, but what I'd like to do is show that to you right here. So Sarah's going to readjust the camera. I'm going to put my glasses on, and let's take a look at how we're trimming this down. I'm going to start with the top and what I consider the top and the bottom of the unit. And I'm going to start with the star 60 tool, and I'm going to use and focus on these flat edge trim lines. Those two broken lines that are off the base of the tool are going to be placed on the two seam lines that are already sewn and already pressed. And when I do that, there's one other line that I'm going to look at. I'm going to look at this line and this line, the broken lines there, but I'm going to look at this center line, so making sure that it goes right through those seam intersections. Trim that edge, get it nice and flat. Now that seam is exactly 1/4 inch away. Remove the tool, rotate the unit, reposition the tool with those same broken flat edge trim lines, that same center going right through the seam intersections, but also pay attention down here. You've got a 4-inch measurement line that you can line up with what's already been sewn to make sure that you're trimming this to exactly the size necessary for the block we're making. Now that's how we trim the top and bottom. To trim the sides, I'm going to remove the star 60, pull out a regular tool, regular ruler. I'm going to find the 2 1/4 inch line. How do I know that? If you reference the BlockBuster instructions, it will tell you what number you need to use on that. So I'm going to look at 1 2 1/4. That line is going to be placed directly on the seam intersection points here and on the seam intersection points down here. And doing that, keeping an eye on the lines that are going across on the regular ruler, trim one side. It's not going to go right into the corner. It's not supposed to, but it's going to give you good points. Rotate the unit. When you do the next trim, same thing. You're looking at that 2 1/4. 1 2 1/4. 1 2 1/4. The other thing you might want to do is drop this down so that you're putting a straight line across the bottom. And this should now be trimming to 4 1/2 inches. 1 2 3 4 1/2 inches. And when I get all those lines lined up, make that final trim, I'm going to have a perfectly sized unit. It's not a square, it's a rectangle, but it's the correct size unit to be able to build this block. So this becomes a simple 9 patch. Make your rows. So these 3 blocks, these 3 units together, these 3 units together, these 3 units together. For pressing, I look at the center row first because there are no seams in the center. Those seams want to go toward the center. So I would press those seams in. On this row, I would press those seams out then, and I would press those seams out so that I have nesting seams at my row intersections. And for this and this seam, because I've got really sharp points up there, I don't want to take this seam and press it up. I would take this seam and press it down, and the seam up here, I would press up. So I'm pressing away from those sharp points. And just like that, I am going to have these gorgeous blocks, but I am going to warn you, because the star 60 tool is involved in this, there aren't a lot of different sizes that you can make. We give you a small, a medium, and a large size block option. Stick to those. You can vary them and venture out if you want to, but the math gets a little bit ugly. So hopefully this is going to help. Hopefully you're all going to come and join our Facebook page so that once a month when we release our BlockBuster blocks, you're going to have a chance to print those off, put them in your folder, put them in your files, and hopefully have a chance to play with some of the tools that you have in your stash where blocks that are maybe new to you. So that's all I have for today. You guys take care, and I'll see you next Thursday.